Hi everyone. So I thought about doing kind of a fun little video. I really want to go over. Well, I guess it'd be two things. One would be a little bit of a review of the career mode, but honestly, it's really gonna be more focused on doing like a wish list, like what I like currently, like what we have, what we don't like. In regards to the setup, the tournaments. Maybe talk about some of the tournaments that 2K has that they don't have in here, and vice versa, and then kind of go into, kind of on the wish list. But also, it kind of felt like talking about the overall career mode as well, kind of like how you start, the Korn Ferry and so forth. Again, what I like or don't like. And I thought a good way to kind of start this. I've already passed through, I haven't done the full season career mode, but I've done enough now to kind of get the gist of it and know what's going on, and how it feels. But I thought, I've already done the amateur route, and I've been through the Korn Ferry Tour. And now I'm on the PGA Tour, so you're at the top of the level. Minus obviously winning majors and so forth. So I thought about early on, I'll get a little gameplay video here. I'm going to do one of these daily tournaments that's pretty much free to enter. That's where I'm going to mostly talk about the early stages, the amateur, the Korn Ferry Tour, what I like to see, and so forth, what I currently like. Plus, just way we get a little gameplay, since that's just me going through the menus, for 30 straight minutes. I did turn down the commentary quite a bit. Hopefully, it's okay and not over talking. I actually like the commentary a lot, and that would be a discussion with the career mode as well. Also, probably go over some of the courses too. So that's really going to be the main focus. Really, career courses, what I hope to see maybe down the road, or like wishful thinking, like way out there ideas and so forth. But yeah. So, but real quick with these social tournaments, before we go into the harder things. They're free to enter. They're actually good to get money, or in-game currency, I should say. Basically, you're guaranteed at least, I think, 250 coins, even if you as long as you finish the tournament, these 4 holes. So there's no cost. And you can do it as many times as you want. Like in terms of getting a better score each time. The better the score, the more basic coins you can get in terms of world ranking, where you are with the leaderboard and stuff, and I can show that in a little bit. But yeah, easy, if anyone of those is not too familiar with it, easy way to get coins, highly recommend it. It's only 4 holes, you're in and out in about, 10 to 20 minutes, about 15 minutes roughly each time, if that. But anyway, but kind of going into, kind of the point of this, the career mode here. What I really do like the beginning of is you can go the amateur route. Well, you can actually choose. You can go right to pro, Korn Ferry, or you can do the amateur route. And the amateur route, I think, is really well done. You can basically, and what's great, they have multiple approaches. So it isn't just the US AM. You can go and play into the RNA, which is the amateur championship, the original. It's really the OG of amateur championships. The RNA, the British Open, the oldest majors. Oldest amateur championship. You can play in that and qualify for the British Open, or you can go to the USAM and qualify for the Masters and the US Open. I think the amateur also qualifies for the Masters as well. I'm pretty sure the Masters is very well known for that. Or you have the Latin America and Pan Pacific AM too as well, which is really good. And they also got the Women's AM, which is really cool. So for the female players, you get to play the Women's AM at Augusta National. I have a few thoughts about the women's side, but first on the men's side, really well done. Those are all real tournaments. The Pan, especially like the Asia and Latin America. Those are actually really good tournaments, and usually the winners of those go to the Masters. I don't think they qualify for the U.S. Open. I could be wrong for that, or the Open Championship, but those, I think they do now. I don't think at one time they did, but they were run by basically Augusta National Golf Club, so. And the fact they actually got him in, I think, is really good, because it really does show the growth of the amateur game, and just how a lot of some of these players over time, kind of where they got their started. Like Hideki Matsuyama that won the Masters, he won the Asian amateur. He went through that route, got the low score as an AM when he was an amateur at Augusta. And now he's a major winner at Augusta. So it just shows you the growth of the game worldwide and giving those opportunities to those players. Oh man, I actually screwed that up. So that is really well done. I like how you can go. I did the USAM route. The biggest amateur tournament here in the States. The only thing I would say, this is where we kind of diverge a bit, where they could they make it better, add more? Yes. I think for starters, it makes sense why you just go into the USAM, because you're likely start as an 18 to 20-year-old player basically, and that's the route you would go, like post-college. It's like, okay, if you're a college age, student, let's say, or player, you're likely going to be playing the USAM if you're good enough to qualify and get to that stage. Like, it's not easy to get there, but basically that's kind of where you go. But I'm like, part of me is like, well, why don't they add more? Like, to me, and again, this comes down to cost and stuff, so I don't expect it to happen. But the USAM, that's just one of the tournaments the USGA runs. Like, they also run like the US Mid-Am, which is players that are 25 and over, that, they're slightly not as good as what the typical USAM played. Like, the USAM players, like, I think they get in, you got to have a handicap of under 2. If you aren't familiar, the handicap is like the index, how you rate a player, basically. But basically, to get in the USAM, it's a lower... it's like I think under 2, and then the Mid-Am's like a 3. I'm actually going to pull that up right now. But basically, the reason that they have the US Mid-Am, because there's players that are still really good past like 25, but they didn't go pro, and they're not really good enough to compete, let's say, overall, on an average USAM tournament. Like, these players are like, 16 to 20, who are still like, let's say like, upper teens to early 20s who are in peak condition. They're playing at college level. They're playing all day. The U.S. Mid-Am is basically people who are like, who graduated, didn't turn pro, and now they're just kind of like, working full time. Let's say an office job, but still play a lot of golf or try to be good. And they go to the Mid-Am where, if they win that, then they get an invite to Augusta, obviously the U.S. Open as well. So it's kind of cool they have that route. And I think it'd be kind of cool they kind of did that, just more like as a way to kind of like create your own storylines as a player. Because, when it comes to sports games, you do have like some of real stories like, the beginning of 2K, NBA 2K, or, like MLB The Show's kind of doing that now with, little dialogue stuff and so forth. But in general, you really create your own story in your head. Obviously it's about winning and getting, going, this game going to the PGA Tour, winning majors. But part of it is like, well, you kind of create your own story in your head. And it'd be kind of neat to have that element. It's like, yeah, I'm a 25, let's say a near 30-year-old that got into Augusta and all of a sudden he's making a run and decides, I'm going to go pro or something. It's just kind of like a fun way to create your own story, basically. So, all right, hold on one second. Okay, I got it here. So yeah, so example, the US Mid-Am, you need an handicap index of 3.4 or lower, while the regular USAM is 2.4. And as I said, the reason is really that because of the type of players that play in both, where the Mid-Am is really, people who aren't professional golfers, aren't in college anymore, just still good, but they're, obviously they cannot play like full time. Let's say like the USAM, where you get a lot of college players, and like, well, they're at least playing every day for college. They got full practice facilities and so forth. So it's a good way to get like multiple people together. And they used to even have a public links amateur championship. That's sadly gone, but it's like for people who even a slightly higher handicap but didn't have any access to private courses and stuff. But they sadly got rid. They play stuff, I think, with a 4-ball tournament. So kind of a little fun, another fun way they do it. But yeah, but a little bit lost there. But anyway. That'd be like one way to add it. I say add that, maybe the Mid-Am. And then the other side, kind of back to the women's game. From what I've seen, and I didn't see it, and I don't think I've seen it from anywhere else, you only got the women's amateur at Augusta, which is great. But you don't have the U.S. Women's Am, and I don't understand why. Or even like for the RNA, because they run, a female side of the Am as well, and it'd be kind of cool to kind of see that, where you can qualify as a female, then go to the U.S. Women's Open and so forth. And again, I have not seen that in this game, to my knowledge. Really just the men's side, minus the Evian Championship. And then I have the Chevron Championship. Again, well, we can talk about that later. I could be a little wrong, as I have not played a female player in this game, so maybe they're all in there. Like, it just seems like the LPGA side is a little lacking compared to the PGA side. And I kind of understand why in terms of costs and stuff and trying to get this game off the ground. But you know, but it's interesting though. It does show like the women's, you know, Augusta Amateur, but then it doesn't seem to show like the women's side. But again, maybe it is in there. And again, same thing. There's no mid-am, and they got other terms like 4-ball. But I mean, I think it's the mid-am I would like to see. But kind of moving beyond that, you go into the Korn Ferry Tour. Overall, that's really solid. Like, there's no real tournaments. Like, only the last tournament kind of is technically more realistic in regards to like having the United Rental logo on there, which is like the sponsor of the Korn Ferry Final Championship, basically. And then you also have the Q School as well, which is good because that is how it is in real life. But you know, kind of, you know, but again, you know, when it comes to the Korn Ferry, like the point of the minor leagues is just to kind of get through, develop your player, and then get to the PGA Tour and try and stay there. Obviously, in reality, you know, you have players that go back and forth, you know, struggle to stay at the top or need to go back and they kind of work or figure themselves out and kind of elevate to the next level. You know, Max Homa was a great example of that, where he went to the tour once, he had a terrible rookie year, lost his card, went back to the Korn Ferry, thought about giving up, but he kind of worked through it, got back there, and now he's a top 10, you know, current top 10 player in the world. But he's got multiple wins now, including like, you know, a couple big tournaments like the Genesis Invitational, which is a very good tournament. So he's won a couple other times. Usually does well out in California. That's probably his home base. But anyway, but that said, it's like, you know, the point is, you know, you don't want to go back to that tour. And in terms of a video game, you know, it doesn't make sense to put too many resources into that, because it is really just more about developing your player and kind of getting to that next level. Excuse me, I have more coffee here. I want to drink. But could they do more, add more there? And the answer is yes. I don't think in terms of the amount of turns, you do about the Korn Ferry season in this game is only 10 tournaments. In reality, it's like, you know, I think 30 plus. You know, it's like it mimics the PGA Tour schedule in regards to like, you know, start out, you know, in the winter basically till the fall. But you know, that being made, again, this is just a way to get to the next level. It's really the main focus is the majors in this game and the PGA Tour. But I think another way they could expand on by it, they'd be really cool. And this is honestly going into the wish list. I don't think it's going to happen just for a lot of reasons, just because of cost and development. But what if they had the other, let's say, I wouldn't say develop tours, but tours where you see pros come from. And the best example would be now called the DP Tour, but formerly the European Tour. And the PGA Tour and DP Tour has got a, you know, agreement to work together more now. Personally, they need to do more there that I haven't seen yet, but I know that's kind of slowly been building. Like now you get like, I think the top 10 players in the European Tour get now PGA Tour cards, I believe. Let me double check that. But they do have a couple sanctions event, and one is the Genesis, the Genesis Scottish Open. You know, that's a co-section event where the PGA Tour and DP Player Tours play together outside of a major, or even the old World Golf Championships technically, but they were really just glorified PGA events. But it's basically like, you know, a mixed field of both European and PGA Tour players. And last year was a really cool tournament where you see like a lot of the European players that don't really come to the States playing with like Colin Morikawa or Jordan Spieth, for example, where it's like a good mix of you know, like players, you know, getting into the PGA, you know, mix of players of like, you know, quote, the best in the PGA and the best in the DP Tour. And there's some that kind of go between both tours, like Matt Fitzpatrick or, you know, Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, you know. So it was a really cool, truly global event. They have a couple others, but really alternative events like the Barbasol during like a major week. So they count, but I don't really, you know, no one really cares. You know, it was really the Scottish Open, was really a good one they've done so far, in my opinion. I'm just checking. I just want to double check. So, how many cards they get now? This is really new too. Yes, so top 10 DP World Tour players can get a PGA Tour card now. So that's like another way to get to the PGA Tour, so the DP Tour. Now again, the main reason they don't have it is, one, that's a whole nother tour you got to get the rights to. Then you got to get the rights to those tournaments as well, and that kind of gets into like it gets, it's like, how do you do that? It's like, well, not how you do that, but it's like, is it worth all the costs? And you got to get the courses as well. I think there's a few they should try to get, or maybe if hopefully the PGA Tour expands more into, like the DP Tour's partnership, then start adding that, because they actually have one in the PGA Tour 2K, which we'll go over here in a couple minutes here. But that'd be like a cool way to do it. I think that'd be the other good way to add like another career path. Instead of Korn Ferry, maybe I go to the DP Tour and play in the world, the European Tour, and have those tournaments. That, and then also maybe like, because you can pick like your nationality in this game, and obviously for people, let's say pick the British Isles, I'm going to go through the RNA. Like, you kind of have that in the amateur side, but you can go through the RNA. You can go through the British qualification for the Open. You're not going to the U.S. Open. You're going to try and go for the Open, basically, instead of the U.S. route. And it's like, okay, you got this world route, kind of like how it is in real life, but then they kind of cut it short in the development phase between the amateur and the top level and pro golf. So personally, I think that'd be cool over time if they had the resources, I said, to invest into that. Add the DP Tour along with their schedule and tournaments. It may not need to be a full, this is what, 32 tournaments here? Maybe 20, 20 tournaments, and you can have a few joint, like the Scottish Open, as an example, which is a joint event, and have that in there. Or put the Barbasol if you want to throw a couple of the smaller ones. But just a way to kind of like, add that another route. And that's definitely more a true wish list, which probably won't happen, but it'd be kind of cool. But that said, as we go into the PGA Tour and their current schedule and what I like to see, what 2K has they don't have, vice versa. I do like the route overall. I think it's really good. It's fun. To me, to have the US Am route is so cool. They didn't have that in the old games, and I just think that's a great way to build that. Another one last wish list in terms of the amateur or the let's say developer route. With the growth, with the whole changes in college sports, the NIL and stuff, it would be cool if they added college golf in this game. Like, you can actually start in college and work your way up. And granted, they can't do that. That'd be tough too, because like what schools you're gonna get. You can't get every school, but like at least the NBA 2K kind of does that. Where you can start in college and then go into the, you can go either the J League, Summer League, and then get to the NBA. Like they actually have like that kind of college route, and it's limited. It's like usually like, I don't know, 8 to 10 schools roughly, if I remember last time I played a couple years ago. And go through that. But imagine like, you had like a few like Stanford or like, North Carolina or Arizona State or Pepperdine Golf, and you have a couple other tournaments. It doesn't have to be like a full season, but let's say you have like the Western Collegiate Invitational, which is a great tournament. It's an amazing course, actually done by the same architects as Augusta. Like, that would be cool. Or you had the national champion, the NCAA championships, down in Phoenix. There, it's down in Phoenix, Scottsdale. At what is that course? It's gonna have a brain fart. Hold on, because I know I was looking at this course before. So. Oh yeah, Greyhawk Golf Club in Scottsdale. Like, that'd be cool, and that's another couple clubs they can throw in there and then utilize us in the Korn Ferry Tour or one of the made-up tournaments. But anyway, that'd be, again, that's another, the DP in that is a very long wish list, but I'm just thinking, like, if this game is doing as well as it seems it's been doing so far in terms of the reviews and interest, truly building on, I would say the most successful golf game in EA, probably since the Tiger Woods series over a decade ago. I'm just thinking, how can they add more and keep that pedal to the metal type situation over, let's say, maybe throwing in like Madden's become. And granted, team games, unless they add a new team or stadium, there's not much else you can do besides like gameplay or a little like career mode stuff, in my opinion. But anyway, that's the wish list. I want to go into the PGA Tour and kind of go what I really like and don't like early on. First, what I like, they actually got the entire West Coast swing. And I go into this, but what they call the West Coast swing is basically, after the first couple weeks, they're actually in Hawaii, they call the West Coast swing, they're out west. So this is all in California and Arizona basically. But these are really good tournaments. Like this is an elevated. These two are called elevated tournaments now. And what that means is, the PGA Tour is in a new series called Elevated Events where they got, in general, the top 50 have to commit to it. Now, they get like a bye. They can skip one, but the skipping anymore, they get fined, basically. And this kind of came because of the whole live golf situation. But the goal is to try to find better ways. The top players all agree we need to come together more often to generate interest and hype, because other times when we're just so, I said the majors are all kind of divide and conquer. So it's just kind of like, okay, John Rahm's here, but Rory's not. Or like, oh, Tony Finau's here, but no one else, not me. There's only a couple of players to note that are there, at this term, like the 3M, let's say, which is not in this game, it's in 2K, but we'll go over that in a minute. So the fact they got the entire West Coast is good, because this is honestly one of my favorite parts of the schedule. Each course looks amazing in this game and in real life. First note though, with this one, first I was shocked they actually got this one, to be honest. It's kind of fallen off in the middle of everything, because it's kind of like in between Hawaii. It's like the first event in the mainland after Hawaii, so some players skip it because obviously if they were playing in the Sony Open the week before, they got to fly 5 hours, and start their week immediately. So it's just a lot of travel and, starting the season off. But it's a cool course. It's kind of tough. The only note here, again, this is nitpicky. I'm not going to, but let's say part of the wish list. This term is unique. It's actually, there's a cut only on the 4th day. So there's actually a cut. It doesn't start, the cut is in the first 2 rounds, the first 3 rounds, and they go to 3 different courses. They go to the Stadium course, the Nicklaus course at PGA West, and then La Quinta Inn or La Quinta Country Club. It's another course in the area. So it's kind of cool. It's one of those 3 different courses. They only do the PGA West, and I get why. They do have to get the rights to the 2 other courses. But I think as an update or feature, get all 3, because they're 3 different courses, different layouts, unique. And that'd be kind of a really cool way to kind of go through that tournament. Because, if you have a bad first round in a lot of the courses, okay, you start understanding better how to play it. But this one, it's going to keep you on your feet the entire tournament. So that'd be kind of cool. Personally, I was a little surprised they didn't try to get the Century Tournament champions, the first event in Hawaii. It's kind of a cool event. It's a little laid back usually, but it's a cool course. It's has these crazy elevation changes and wide fairways. You see guys try to crush it 400 yards because they're hitting down like a mountain basically, and just watch the ball roll like crazy. And then the Sony Open, which is honestly it's been kind of a second-tier event or a long time. It's an old event. It's a cool event in my opinion, but they usually don't get too many notable players. Like Hideki Matsuyama is probably the most notable one in the last couple years. But, personally, I like it. It's in Hawaii, so it's kind of called Aloha Swing. It's kind of like primetime golf here. So, but from a wish list, I think they should at least get the events of the Tournament Century. And anything, honestly, the wish list should have all the elevated events, and we kind of go through that in a bit here in a second. But anyway, it starts at the American Express, very good. And then they got the Farmers Jersey. This is in both games. But ironically, the one event 2K has over this one, they actually play in the North course the first 2 rounds as well. So you have 2 rounds before the cut, South and North, and then the weekends on the South course. They only got the South course because, for one, the U.S. Open is only played in the South course, so it's likely a U.S. Open Rota course in this game, or can be if there's an update issue. If it's not doing that, which I assume it is. And then also, it's just easier, like, okay, we can get one course, let's not build the other one. But I give 2K a lot of credit. They put the North course in. They're very similar courses, but the fact they got it in is a very cool feature, and it kind of gives you more that realism to it. Of like, okay, we're going to have both courses on this. Ironically, though, only these first couple tournaments really do multiple courses. A lot as you go through the season, they don't really do that. 1 second. All right, finish my coffee there. Actually, real quick, the reason you kind of see that early on, honestly, is really just because of daylight. Like, even out west, like in January and February, when these events are, it's still sunsets like 5:30. It's not like in the summer, it's like 9 o'clock or 7:30. And when you got full fields, they split out. And same with this. The Pebble Beach Pro-Am's at 3 courses as well. Again, I know why there's only focus on Pebble Beach, U.S. Open course as well. But they also go to Monterey Peninsula Country Club and Spyglass Hill. If anything, I really wish they went and got Spyglass Hill for a couple reasons. One, Spyglass Hill, I believe, is also run by the Pebble Beach Company. So there's the same group of people that run Pebble Beach as well. the Monterey Peninsula is actually a private club. They don't run that. So part of me goes, if they got the rights to this course, and they actually got the logo of the course, so they get the real logos, I'm like, that means they've worked with these people before, and like go after and get Spyglass Hill is an incredible. It's one of the best courses in the U.S. easily, and believe it or not, it's been in the past Tiger Woods games, so they have worked on it before. You know, again, this is like the old data and stuff, so they have to go back out there and get it. But it's like that could be a very cool update, you know. And they actually added Pebble Beach recently as an update into 2K, but I didn't see the Pro-Am in career mode, but I didn't finish the season yet in career mode over that, so they might add in the second season, you know, as an update, you know, because I'm already past that point in the game. But anyway, but I was glad to see that. You know, Pebble Beach is so iconic. It's been almost every Tiger Woods game. This one's in both. I actually played both of them recently, so I kind of compare and contrast. It's interesting how the ball reacts a little different in each game, but you know, again, this is actually the second elevated in the year after the Century Tournament Champions. Makes sense they have this. Glad they do. Not much to say. You know, they got the stands and everything really well. It's like the biggest. This is the most attended tournament every year. They both actually got Genesis as well. Kind of glad too. Riviera is really good. This is a great event. And this is where we kind of start diverging a bit. Ironically, this should be the Honda. Neither of them has that, and actually Honda's driving as a sponsor. So I don't even know what's going to happen to this week, to be honest, in real life. They both got Bay Hill. Very good. Like both of them. I'm kind of fast forwarding through this because there's not much else to say that I haven't already kind of explained earlier. But then, here we go. This is where we diverge a bit. So this week, so this is a little off here. And actually, it's funny. It's a little more realistic in 2K in this regard. So this week, you know, this should be. Hold on one second. I apologize. Checking something. Oh. There we go. Sorry. I have a schedule up here too, so I had to re-pull it out because I know this is a little off here. Okay. So in reality, this is actually right after Arnold Palmer. So yeah, it's kind of intense. They have back-to-back, basically elevated events. And Arnold Palmer's elevated. The Players is the biggest event every year for the PGA Tour. It has the highest purse. It's not officially a major, but they kind of call it an unofficial major. Like, if you win the Players, you get like a longer, like, if you win an event, I think you earn a card automatically for next year in the PGA Tour. But I think if you win the Players, you earn like a 2 to 5 year card, and you also get like exemptions to all the majors beyond that year as well. Like I think it's like 2 to 4 years depending on the event. Again, I'm just trying to think on top of my head because trying to go through the qualifications gets really wonky with each major. But basically, it's an extremely prestigious event in regards to the rewards and what you get. In reality, it should be here. Oh, actually, it is. I take that back. This is an alternative event. Sorry, this makes sense. I apologize. So they got this right. But after that, this is actually in the 2K game, the Valspar Championship, and that's kind of like a smaller tournament in regards to the interest and stuff. And you obviously go from 25 million to like 8.1 million in terms of purse. But believe it or not, the Innsbruck Resort's kind of a cool course. So they call it the Copperhead course, I should say, at the Innsbruck Resort. It's actually in 2K, and it's kind of cool. A little, I wouldn't say disappointed, but surprising they didn't try to get that, because it seemed like it didn't seem too hard. But they might have done an exclusive. And then they kind of, throw their own event here. Now this one, I know why this is here. This would have been the Dell Play, and this is not an either game. So they made an EA Sports Championship, and that's why they show the old WGR 64, because to be in the Dell match plays, you got to be like a certain rank to get in. It's like a match play event where it's like you do a group stage of like 3 matches, and then the top person in that group advances into the knockout stages. So they are adding the Ryder Cup in this game later on, and I thought, unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen in the match play. I think right now it's dead, but they're trying to find a way to make it work next year. But they do keep match play down the road. That'd be cool to add that event in this. This one's actually in week 10 here. This actually is in the 2K. That would have been the Houston Open or the Texas Open. I'm very indifferent. It's right before usually. Okay, see, this is a little off here. So they have an extra week here that I think is a little off this year. Now, granted, they probably they probably did the schedule based on last year too, to an extent. So it's probably that's why they're a little off. Because you really have 2 events. Actually, hold on. You have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So you have 4. There's 3 events this year between the Players and Augusta. But anyway. Oh, I take that back. This is an alternative event. No. I take that back. I misread. This is an alternative event. So this was right. This one actually should be the Texas Open, or the Valor Texas Open. That's in 2K. I'm indifferent. This is part of the TPC network. And the TPC courses in both games, like the Players at TPC Sawgrass. Oh, they call it the Players Stadium course. We say TPC Sawgrass there. The TPC is run by the Tour, so what 2K did, they got the rights to almost all the TPC courses that have tournaments, basically. They actually have a couple, I think, in there. They don't host tournaments like Boston anymore, but they got that. While here, they kind of focus only getting a few of them, like Boston, Sawgrass mostly, and Scottsdale, that I can tell. Well, we'll find out as we go through the rest of the schedule, because it's going to very fast forward here soon after the Masters. So I'm indifferent. This is one of those events that's just kind of on the calendar to kind of get as a last warm-up for the Augusta. Obviously, the majors, there's not much to say. They got it in. They got all the different ways to qualify, and each one's a little different. So I haven't gotten an invite to the Masters, but I currently qualified for the PGA as well. This I was shocked they got, and I was so glad to get that. The RBC Heritage, that's a great one. You know, it's a very fun tournament. I love the course. It's very tight, and then it kind of really opens up in the end. It usually has a great finish. It's also an Elevate event this year. But yeah, I'm very happy to see that. But after this, there's like one more. It really starts kind of losing its luster. So believe it or not, this week would be in 2K. It's the Zurich Classic, but 2K kind of falters here. So the Zurich Classic is a team event of 2 players. So they join up. And they do actually like 4 balls on alternative shot. I won't go into details of that, but basically, you team up with a partner, and what's a missed opportunity. So in 2K, they don't seem to show you, like they only in career mode they occasionally show your rival, and that's kind of it. But in this game, you can actually do stroke play or play with another player, like in career mode. And they're just playing for themselves, but they're trying to give you that realism of being with someone else during a round. And I'm like, if they can show the NPC each time, because in 2K they only show like random shots of your rival, like they're quote who's with you, but you never really see them besides a random chip in or a quick shot. Here you get to see every shot of your partner or whoever you're playing with in your group during the career mode. If they got the Zurich Classic, that could be a real good opportunity, because it's really just a regular event. It doesn't show your partnerships from what I've seen in the 2K. From what I was looking at it, like this is the same type of stroke play and stuff. Here you can actually add that, and if they add that unique form, it'd be kind of like a fun event to add in there. So I think that's a missed opportunity for one of the smaller events each year. It's a little different. Obviously after these 2 big weeks, some of the bigger player names do skip out. But yeah, Matt Fitzpatrick, who was in both and won the RBC Heritage. Xander Schauffele was in it. Patrick Cantley, which is a top 5 finish in the last couple weeks. So it's like they get some notable names. John Rahn's been in it before. So it's like. But it's like, I think that's probably one of the first events that 2K has that this game doesn't have, that I think is missing, that would add some value here. After this is the Mexico Open. They put the French Championship with the Evian course, so they're trying to keep like a quote national open in this spot. Makes sense. I'm mixed on the Mexico Open. I like the tournament. It's kind of neat, but it is like a smaller tournament. The field's really weak. Like there's only 3 players currently ranked in the top 50 in the world, and FedEx is a little more. I think it's like 6 to 8, like 8 to 10 roughly in the top 50 or 60. But it's like it really falls off after that. And I think if you're gonna spend your money, don't spend on that event. Which shame to say, because it is a national open, but it's squeezed in between so much. It's become like a second tier event. But you need these second tier events for players who aren't in the top, let's say 50 or 60, and trying to get into the top 70 to qualify for the playoffs and get a guaranteed card for the next season. It really makes sense to have some of those events. So maybe if they have the resources, but if you're going to spend, I say go on the Zurich instead of this one. Wells Fargo, great to see it in this. I think it's also Valhalla is in 2K, I believe. So good to have that. But after this, it's really going to, unfortunately, listen. This is Brian Nelson. It's not in. I think this might be. I don't think it's in either game, surprisingly, even though it's a TPC course. Obviously, this is big, PGA. They're using last year's course right now in this career at Sunny Hills Country Club, but they are going to add this year's course, which is Oak Hill up in Rochester, or Buffalo, New York area, as an update later on. This one is in either game is the Charles Schwab Challenge. I wish they had that. It's a cool course. It's actually hosted the U.S. Open years ago, called Colonial Country Club. If you're gonna have a smaller event, that's be one of the smaller events I would like. This one, like, unfortunately, this would be with the Memorial Tournament, and it's in neither game, which is surprising. This is an elevated event. It's been one of the bigger events on the tour for a long time. It's hosted at Murfield Village Golf Club by Jack Nicklaus. So Jack Nicklaus is the host. That's why it's a huge event. He's always there. Obviously, he always congratulates, meets the winner. It's Saturday night in this. It's not in either game. But this event should be the Canadian Open. That's actually in 2K. So this is probably the second true event that's in 2K and not in this game that I wish they had, because I think the Canadian Open is a very good tournament. A lot of history. One time it was called the fifth major, like the unofficial fifth major for really the players. A lot of history. It's been around over 100 plus years. The Canadian Open, not this Alberta Open stuff. And it's kind of a neat course. It's usually a course out in Toronto. Sadly, not in it. Maybe down the road, because it's weird. They got the RBC Heritage, which is like, if they already got RBC like Heritage, I'm surprised they don't get the RBC Canadian Open, because same sponsor, obviously different groups running it, in terms of like the actual tournament on the ground. But it'd be kind of neat they did that. U.S. Open, same thing. Last year's course, LA Country Club will be added as a DLC later this year. Very good to see. And after that, this is another one this would be the third one I'd say for sure that 2K has that does, but this should have been the Travelers Championship. That's an elevated event this year as well, and that's usually a good event. It's actually one of the second or most attended event in terms of attendance on the tour. Very, very cool. Some really great finishes. It's kind of a cool course. It's actually TPC River Highlands, which is in 2K, not in this game. I think it's a good course. A nice little northeastern course. A little surprised I didn't get that one. I thought that one would be in here, to be honest. The next 3 weeks are a little more mixed. This one's also in. This would have been the Rockin' Mortgage. I'm mixed on that one. That is in 2K. It's a Donald Ross course, Detroit Golf Club, but it's kind of a mixed event. Decent field, but nothing major. Like, if you're gonna have to save money, I will say cut that out. This would have been this one is really just made up, but this would have been the John Deere Classic. That's in 2K. That's a small event, definitely second tier, but there's usually some good young players that go through there, like Jordan Spieth won it. We saw Thigala there last year. It's kind of a cool tournament. It's an older tournament. It's out actually in the Quad Cities of Illinois. They've had a tournament out there for decades, basically. I think since the 60s or 70s. So a little history there. Good for families. Like, kids can go. Not driving. You can go like get up in these like big Caterpillar. It's sponsored by John Deere. Sorry, getting these big John Deere machines basically and have some fun. I guess. Yeah, this schedule's a little. Yeah, this actually missing a week here. It looks like it. Because one of these is the Dominican. That would have been the Genesis Scottish Open as well. That one would be the fourth event, as I mentioned earlier. That is in 2K. That's not in this game. That I wish it was. So like, the big change I've seen, besides the majors, is EA goes guns blazing early in the season and then kind of falls after the Masters, where they don't have much filling in here besides the majors, which is really good. That weighs so much. Same things at Liverpool this year they added. But then after this one they have the 3M Open. That is in the in realities. Or sorry, this one would be the 3M. The reality that is in 2K. That's in Wisconsin. That's an okay tournament. I really only watched it last year because Tony Finau was in it and won it. And, I was really happy for him. But it's a weaker event. And then you usually get the... Yeah, so they added an extra week in here. In reality, there's only 2 weeks between... Again, they probably based this on last year's schedule roughly, loosely. But in reality, it's 2 weeks between the Open and the playoffs this year. And then they put this one, the Arizona Classic. You see, they kind of start reusing some of the courses, but this one makes no sense. Like, you're not going to go to Arizona in August. I'm sorry, you're just not going to play out there. It's just not going to be a good time. New England made up tournament, but probably would have been. I think they're trying to replicate the Wyndham. That's a small tournament, or not small. That's definitely like the last event's usually pretty tame. Most of the players that are already in the playoffs won't be there. I would say this should be a little different because obviously only doing the top 70, so like 125. So they probably will have like, some of the players in the top 50 or around that border would be in there. They probably would have skipped in the past trying to get in. But a lot of your elite players who are probably in the top 30 or 40 will not be there like usual. And then we get to the playoffs. They did update this. So the older 2K game came out. It was last year's. It came out last year. So it has the older settings of the top 125. Here it's the top 70. So very good. Not much really needs to be said here. These are both in both games. They both got the same courses. So this game will add Olympia Fields for the BMW. The BMW rotates a bit, kind of moves around different courses. So that Olympia Fields. So they're going to add that course. And all in all, we're going to get at least 3 new courses. Actually 4 later this year. Southwind, or sorry, not Southwind, LA Country Club, Oak Hill, and then Olympia Fields, and then you're gonna add the Ryder Cup. It sounds like in their press releases, but that won't be so much later. But yeah, that's kind of like their current season. Kind of my wish list. The other thing they can add after this, they're gonna do the fall season, which is going to be more of like a qualification. So let's say my player did not make the top 70, then I don't qualify next season unless I do well in the fall series. And the fall series is about 6 tournaments. Again, I think those would be more made up, but ironically, they do have a little of that in 2K. They have the Shriners Open at TPC Las Vegas. Personally, I like that tournament as like a nice little distraction background, like between like football and stuff, because this is the middle of football season now. But it's kind of a cool tournament. They occasionally get a couple notable names because it is like a big charity for a children's hospital, basically. But the fall schedule kind of falls. The one tournament I wish they would be cool they add in either game would be the Zozo Championship. That's in Tokyo. Not in Tokyo, so it's in Japan. It's in Chiba, I believe, which is like east of Tokyo. I think that's a cool course. I love the Japanese courses personally. They look cool. There's something got like 2 greens, and that one does where like one green's meant for one half of the year, the other green's for the other half of the year. So they're grown differently to handle each different types of seasons. Kind of cool. It got all the kinds of cool like pine trees and stuff. Like it's a very gorgeous course, and I think that'd be a cool. Unfortunately, like I think they missed the boat on that. That should have been like an elevated fall event. I think in regards to spread out the elevated events and have like one notable event in the fall to get some bigger names to come out, in my opinion. So I think that's a missed opportunity. Excuse me. So CJ Cup is gone, unfortunately, but I think they're going to sponsor something new. But CJ Cup was the one that's supposed to be in Korea, but they've been doing it in the U.S. since COVID, unfortunately. But that'd been another one, like have both the Japan and CJ back to back, where you can have like, like an Asian swing basically. But again, who knows? There's gonna be a lot of changes in the next few years with the, I would say with the the PGA Tour and the schedule. But those have been probably like we kind of need to eventually add a fall schedule for the players who don't qualify, because I'm guessing here they'll just send you back to Q school, which is another route that does happen in reality. But I think if you're already on the PGA Tour, you'd rather just go play in the fall event and just do what you can to continue to keep your card in the top, like, 120, 125 total in terms of the FedEx Cup standings or wherever they're going to do it this fall. But yeah, that's the long story short. I kind of went over the side to go of the season, what I like, don't like. But really, the 4 events that aren't in this game, they are in 2K, which I give them an advantage, is the Scottish. I think Zurich, if they add true team play in this game, I think that'd be really. If not, then just kind of like, it's like whatever to me. The Canadian Open and the Travelers, like those are probably the big 4. I really wish they were in this game. Again, with Zurich, if they don't pull it off and cut that out, and it'd be the Travelers Scottish. The Scottish is a co-sanctioned event, as I mentioned earlier, with the DP Tour. So who knows? Maybe down the road they try to do something like that. Yeah, because otherwise, that's really my only complaint with this career mode is really after this. We'll just go through it because it's like, okay, so let's look at licensed tournaments. All right, like early on, it's like guns blazing. Look at this. You got 5 in a row. Then there's 6 out of 7. Then it's 7 out of 8. Well, actually, out of 8. This is an alternative event, so I mean, I won't count the alternative events. These are invitations. That's why they got these. So really 7 out of 8 weeks. And then it's, okay. Then we get to Augusta. Okay, now we're at like, 8 out of 10 or 11 roughly, or 8 out of 12. Yeah, see, it starts dropping a bit. you got the RBG and you got the Wells Fargo. That's nice. But then it's like after the PGA, there's like just the U.S. Open, the Open, and then that's it. Like the summer is so lacking, and the summer is actually the peak of the PGA Tour season. Like, now they've changed it up where they got the elevated events throughout the year, but it's like we're missing, we're missing at least like I think 2 elevated events here. I'm gonna double check. I know Travelers is one. I'm gonna get past. Okay, so Wells Fargo's one. They got that. So the Memorial, neither game's got it. So there's one elevated event. Then the Travelers, which is 2. Canadian Open's 9 million. It's a little higher than your typical event. So they get some good players like Rory and Justin Thomas in that. I won't count that as an elevated, but let's say notable tour. We're gonna count elevated, very notable tournaments. So there's three post RBC Heritage. And then you get I'd say Scottish Open. It'd be interesting who shows up this year, but that'd be the 4th one. They had one of the strongest fields last year. So there's really 4 events they could easily or should get between Wells Fargo and here. And I can go beyond as we mentioned earlier, but honestly, this is where my big issue. The summer really, besides the majors, really fall flat. And then it picks up obviously with the playoffs, which I'm glad they got. They both got the playoffs as they should. It just seems very surprising that at least didn't get the Travelers. No one's got the Memorial for some reason, or even the Scottish Open. So it's like I think having another, especially there's really only like they only got this course overseas right now in Scotland. Now they're adding Liverpool, so that's another one to add soon. But it's like if they have the Renaissance, like to me, it could use a couple more British style link courses. It doesn't have. And it does have link style in terms of like Bandon Dunes, and I think the one in New Zealand is link style. The Terra Ziti. I apologize, I butchered that pretty. Oh, here, Terra Iti. That's a link style from what I've seen. But yeah, and then like this, it's like who's going from Massachusetts to New Zealand in the same week? I mean, it's not possible. Like they won't show up until like almost like the day before they tee off. Thursday. They'd be there Tuesday night. So it's anyway, it's just. That's nitpicking, but yeah, overall, a great career mode in my opinion. Just a little lackluster in the summer, unfortunately. Really good early on, but really falls off after they. And it's funny, during the trailer, they really just showed this part of the schedule, and I understand why now. But who knows? They got a lot of updates. I mentioned those tournaments. The only other thing I would say, maybe in terms of courses aren't really tied to this, is add Pinehurst too for the U.S. Open. They're gonna have the U.S. Open a lot there. It'd be very cool to have. And I would say add a couple more of the British Open rotation courses. Those are pretty set in stone where they go to. They obviously got St. Andrews, but like, they're going to Liverpool. Maybe get Muirfield in there would be nice. Just a couple more. But yeah, that's kind of my wish list. But overall, very, very good career mode. Not perfect. Can add a little more. 2K's got a little more advantage of the summer events with the TPC. I would say partnership. Bigger partnership than EA does, but. Besides the Travelers and Scottish, or actually really just the Travelers, they're smaller events. Like the 3M and the John Deere. I like them for what they are, but really, the biggest ones I'd say be the Travelers, and the Scottish Open in that regard. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. It's it went a little longer than I wanted to, but I thought it was just kind of fun to kind of break all of this down. So anyway, I hope everyone's having a good one, and take care.